Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of Eric Oshgarian, my fellow aldermen, and our amazing city staff, we welcome you to our virtual Ward 3 fall meeting. We're sorry that we aren't meeting in person tonight, but better safe than sorry. This meeting is your meeting, and we promise to keep it as interactive as possible, informative, and fun. We want to share with you what's going on in the city, but this is really your time to learn and ask questions. So we're not going to present 50 plus slides and try to put you all to sleep. We are scheduled to go from 7 to 8:30 p.m. We have around 30 minutes of slide content, and we'll do 60 minutes, if necessary, of Q&A. And we're also glad to go longer if some of you want to. And of course, we can always follow up offline as well. We'll have our contact information on a slide as we get going here. We have a great agenda today. We're going to start with some intros and an overview of our ward and our city. And then for those of you who were on the call last year, I'm a fan of top 10 lists. So we're going to do a top 10 list of the amazing things about Lake Forest. Then we're going to discuss a few what's new items in Lake Forest. And then we're going to do a deeper dive on our city finances because, you know, everybody loves budget slides and analyzing property tax numbers and how we use money, right? I mean, all kidding, it is important for everybody to have a base understanding of our finances, which are great, but we do want to share with you. And then we're going to go into highlight some key Ward 3 projects and go into some topics. And then we'll open it up for your questions. Again, audience involvement is encouraged. Please feel free to enter questions in the Q&A feature on Zoom during our presentation along the way, and we may address them as we get to a particular slide before our formal Q&A session. When we get to Q&A, please use the raise hand function, and we will let you into the conference to ask your question. And of course, we'll also scroll through all of the Q&A questions that you've typed in to cover them as well. But first things first, let's start with proper introductions. So my name is Jim Prushlock. I moved to Lake Forest in 1977 with my family in the 5th grade, and I returned after business school in 1997. And so my wife and I are currently at the Knollwood Country Club. She also grew up in Lake Forest. We have 2 kids, almost empty nesters. We have a son at NYU and a daughter who's a senior at Woodlands. I'm a management consultant by training and currently work in the tech startup space. And aside from volunteering for the city council, I've also served on the caucus, the HPC, and the vestry of the Church of the Holy Spirit. And Era, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jim. So I'm Eric Oshgarian. I'm a lifer, so to speak. I grew up in town. I went through all the public schools here, Everett, Deer Path, Lake Forest High School. Going off to college, I ultimately became an orthodontist, and not only do I live in town, but I work in town. I've been involved with the community at various levels, as well as significantly with my national organization, American Association of Orthodontists. You know, I do want to take a brief moment in the beginning and thank staff for helping us put this together. Something that I think is lost on us when we're sitting in the audience seat is the staff actually has to do this 4 separate times and for 4 different wards. And if you've watched this, you know that we all have different approaches. And, you know, I'm fortunate that Jim and I have similar styles. So again, I would emphasize, I agree with Jim wholeheartedly. We'd like to make this your meeting, and you know, questions are welcome, and we actually do have one coming up, and we'll get to it shortly. You know, I'm married. My wife and I, my wife Christine and I, have 4 beautiful daughters. The oldest one is down in Nashville. She's a neonatal ICU nurse down at Vanderbilt. Very proud of her. We have twins that are in college out on the East Coast, and our youngest one, Caroline, is a junior at Lake Forest High School. So we're not quite there yet. We're not, I'm just shortly behind Jim, but you know, one of my greatest enjoyments is my family. but I really do consider it a privilege and an honor to serve and be a representative to the Third Ward. So I think, Jim, keeping it brief, let's turn it back over to you. And as we get a little bit further down, we do have a question already, but let's dive in a little bit, and then we'll answer some of these questions as we go.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. So there's a lot of new folks in town, and so we wanted to cover just an overview of the city. And let's just start with the Third Ward. Our city is divided into 4 wards, and there's 2 aldermen in each ward. And the little dot up there on the left is where I live in the Knollwood Country Club, if anyone's ever been there. And then Era is down south here at the Middle Fork. And so the ward, boundaries are kind of interesting. They're census driven, but it's a very unique ward. So we have the Middle Fork, Savannah, we have Eloa Farm, we have the hospital. I always joke, we have 4 golf courses, and I always think maybe we could have a tournament where we play all 4 in one day. We have the Bears headquarters, we have Conway Office Park and the Forester, the new hotel. We have the historic Market Square and the Central Business District. We have Ragdale. We have residents, condominiums, and beautiful neighborhoods, and obviously great people across the city and in the ward. So if I forgot anything, please ping Era and he'll bring it up, and we'll talk about it during the Q&A. Just some fun facts on Lake Forest. It was chartered in 1861. We have around 19,000 folks that live in a 20-mile square area, and almost 17,000 actual voters that are registered. We're a city manager form of government, and one of the really things that makes this community special is the caucus and our city's spirit of volunteerism. If you haven't volunteered on a board and commission, please consider it, and please reach out to Aaron and I, or by email to the Third Ward Caucus Chairman, Gordon Lanphier, directly. He's a great guy, and he can direct you on how to get plugged in. There's over 150 folks doing it, over 20 boards and commissions, and thank you to everybody that serves and the staff that makes it possible. Okay, so enough about Era and me and the Lake Forest and the caucus. We wanted to get a sense for who's on the call, and it's hard to do personal intros, but I wanted to ask the audience some questions. And then if yes applies to you, please push your raise hand button after the question. And then Era is going to say how many people, and we'll try this on for size. So first question, how many people moved to the Lake Forest within the last 18 months? Any hands raised there?
Yeah, there are 4. So we have 4 relatively new residents. Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome to the community. All right, second question. How many people have lived in Lake Forest for 5 or more years?
It looks like there are 10.
10.
Yeah.
All righty. How many people have lived in Lake Forest for 50 or more years? I know Sue Dixon had reached out, and Sue, I hope you're out there, but anybody else who over 50 years living in Lake Forest?
So it looks like 4, 5.
4. Wow,
5.
Amazing. So it's kind of new and kind of middle and a long time, although for 50 years it's kind of like being a newcomer for some people in Lake Forest, but welcome everybody. All right, fourth question, how many people are attending a ward meeting for the first time?
Okay, this is great. So we have 6 attendees that are attending for the first time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for attending. Really appreciate that. Fifth question, how many people have volunteered or are volunteering on one of our many boards and commissions, or even the caucus?
Oh, great. 7.
Wow. Out of how many total, Era? How many are in the meeting?
So we have almost 30. We have 29 attendees.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, thank you for your service. And I'm sorry I can't see your names because I'm doing the slide stuff, but really, really, really appreciate everybody's service and for attending. How many people wish we could have met in person? Raise your hand there. Anyone?
17.
17.
Well,
Okay.
Jim, I'm gonna throw myself in on that.
You're going to throw me too. I'm going to throw my hand up too. You know, we apologize, you know, as this is my fourth one. The first two were in person. It's much better to get a sense of who people are and to build relationships. We're here to serve you in the city and to, you know, to help you understand how to navigate things. And it's just better to do that in person. And so again, we apologize for that, but you know, it's safer versus being sorry. And hopefully next year we can be in person. And the last question, which is kind of a lead into our top 10 list. How many people think Lake Forest is amazing? Anyone that I got to raise in there? I hope there's 29, right? What do we got?
We're going there.
All right.
Yeah, it's 22.
22. Okay. I'm assuming the 7 couldn't find the raise hand button, but yeah, it really is. So we just wanted to share, you know, top 10 amazing things about Lake Forest, and please add your own in the Q&A if you think if we've missed any, and if you just got here, you probably experienced some of them or all of them, but let's just go. Okay, number 10, amazing things about Lake Forest. The month of August, when it seems like everybody is on vacation. It is truly amazing. You go to the beach, you can drive into any restaurant parking spot, and it's obviously a function of vacation and other things, but it's just amazing. I don't know if we're going to raise hands on that, but all right, number 9, the city's amazing history. We have a lot of historians in our community, and we have an amazing history center. So please check that out. It really is special on Deer Path, and it also includes the history of Lake Bluff. But it really, truly is amazing. Number 8, the many non-for-profits and businesses that serve our city. The list is almost endless. But during COVID, it was amazing to see the non-for-profits in the city helping the non-for-profits and the businesses, you know, just continue to thrive and to innovate and to do their things. From Gorton to Ragdale to, you name it, in terms of the businesses and all the foundations that help with Parks and Recs and all these other places. It's really quite remarkable, really, how many giving hands there are and caring businesses for the city. Number 7, Lake Forest Day, the 4th of July, tree lighting and music festivals and other community events that we can experience as a community that come together. Quite amazing. Sorry. Got ahead of myself. Number 6, our well-run and fiscally responsible city government. Thank you, staff, but also thank you, prior city leaders and aldermen and mayors. We're in incredibly good sound footing in a state that has its challenges, on a lot of dimensions. And so we're just really, it's a really amazing job that's happened in the past that we get to, hopefully extend and do a small part for. Number 5, the amazing schools, both public and private. They really are incredible, and they're obviously very well ranked in our state, and both caring parents and teachers and administrators, but truly amazing. Number 4, amazing things about Lake Forest, the caucus and strong tradition of volunteerism and sense of civic duty. I think I probably speak for Era as well. You kind of volunteer on the board and commission, as a lot of you have, or you kind of volunteer on the city council out of spirit of volunteerism and a sense of civic duty to give back, just to kind of do your part and move on. And so it's just so many, the names are endless that have contributed to the history of our city. And this strong volunteerism, 85 plus years of the caucus is really essential to preserving that. The third is the amazing thing is the spirit of philanthropy. We do a lot of public and private partnerships over the years with city and foundations. We've done it at Market Square. We did it at Eloa. We've done it at Forest Park. We're starting to do it in the library. There's been people that have been stepping up there. The list just goes on and on. The beach access road was amazing in terms of the private support as well as Forest Park. So that spirit is contagious. People just do it. They don't want attention, and it's quite remarkable. Number 2, top 10 amazing things about Lake Forest: the amazing natural beauty and open spaces, which really has been planned both at the municipal level, but also as part of Open Lands, which is just one of those amazing non-for-profits and those conservation organizations in our community, and frankly, world class in the country. And then, of course, the Middle Fork Savannah, which is part city and part county, and the beach and all the parks, but amazing open spaces. And we saw that in spades of why people are moving here because of that. And the last amazing thing about Lake Forest are the amazing residents and the people that make it all happen. And that really truly is, from the bottom of all of our hearts, that includes the city staff, all the volunteers, and the people that live here and care about it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, next, what's new in Lake Forest? A lot's going on in the city. So this slide could be called "Who's New in the City?" As close to 15% of our housing stock has turned over in the last 18 months. Also, IDOT has been hard at work on making these drainage and infrastructure improvements on Deer Path and 41. We really, really appreciate your patience. We're gonna touch on that project later in the presentation. We had an amazing end of summer festival of bands, and that was courtesy of the Friends of Parks and Rec Foundation, who do so much for our community. And Jim Shaw and Dana Olson and other department heads have done a just terrific job on remaking our city's website and launching our new mobile app, LF Now, which I really highly recommend anyone new or has a smartphone to download. We also have new restaurants and businesses opening up and flourishing. So there are lots of new restaurants in the East Lake Forest. There's a new Rosati's and Donati's open, with Le Colonial scheduled to open in the spring of 2022 in the April timeframe. And that's going to be very, very exciting. On the west side, we have the new Everett Farms restaurant, as well as the Forester. It's a new hotel in Conway Park, which is just beautiful. And I wanted to thank Kathy Zerniak for working so hard and so professionally on all of our new projects. So thank you very, very much. All right, now this is the fun part, the city finances. We always have a section on the city finances for our ward meetings, because it's important for everyone to have a base understanding on the finances of our city and how well run it is, because we do have a sense of stewardship as aldermen on the financial health of our city. And a big thank you to Elizabeth Holub and our finance staff, the department heads, and our finance chair, Jed Morris, as well as all the mayors and aldermen that have come before us, as they kept us in such a strong financial position. And so bottom line, we have ridden out COVID impact the last 18 months extremely well. We've exceeded all of our budget. Some were conservative, but some were, always in the realistic zone and range. And we balance our budgets every year, right? That's just amazing. And we've maintained our AAA bond rating. I was in front of the caucus a couple of weeks ago, and they asked what are some of the achievements under the council. And I really thought that the two bond refinancings in the past 2 years that saved our taxpayers close to $3 million on a present value basis was just kind of extraordinary, and a testament to just, all of what Elizabeth does, and our finance chair, and our council in general, and obviously our city manager, to just make sure that our finances are in good stead. We have very strong financial reserves. We've also proactively addressed our rising pension obligations. I mean, just to put our pension obligations in perspective for a moment, we probably consume roughly around 4.5% a year to fund those. And they're not fully funded, of course, but we've changed some of the assumptions to roll to a 15-year actual window. So we're going to pay more to bend down the curve. If you look at the state level, the pension obligations are consuming around 26, maybe 27% of their budget. And so it's really been a phenomenal job, again, by our finance lead, Elizabeth Holub, and just all of the work that the subcommittee at the pensions have done to manage that liability for the people that are taking care of us in our community, et cetera. But, we do have, all that being said, we have increasing capital needs in our community based on the aging infrastructure and some of the priority projects that people care about. And we spend around 12 million to 13 million in capital a year on a balanced budget that's roughly, kind of plus or minus 5 on 90 million in terms of revenue and spending. We also receive $2 to $3 million a year from the state of Illinois, which is always at risk of partially decreasing. So we really have to stay vigilant on our finances. And we spend around 9 months of the year going through our budget. So we take it very, 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 very seriously. Speaking of budget, this is the fiscal budget for this year that ends in 22, in April of 22. This slide shows the budget and the sources of revenue and the categories of expenses. So on the revenue side, so the majority of it comes from charges and fees, including our real estate transfer fees on buying a piece of property, and our property taxes that we all pay. And on the spending, or on the outie side, 42% of it goes to our staff that keep us safe and our city running efficiently and effectively. And so we're really blessed to have an amazing city manager and department heads and staff. And for those of you that have been here since 08, 09, we took some significant corrective actions from a staffing perspective and levels before the financial crisis and after. And we really made some tough cuts then, and we've really operated pretty lean and mean then, and we didn't rehire these people. We're strategically hiring people in areas of innovation, to use technology, and we're obviously using technology to be smarter in how the city operates. But it's really an amazing thing. So the next slide, this is a sampling of our notable capital investments this year. And you can see that there's storm, water, there's curbs and infrastructure, there's bridges, there's parks and bluffs, there's water and sanitary, and there's capital equipment, there's golf course things that we need to do in the water plant, and equipment for police and fire and all those kinds of things. We have a budget workshop in November that we do every year to discuss the first round of our priorities for the next fiscal year. Some of these will carry over, some will be reprioritized, but I really encourage all of you to attend that if you can. It's really important for us to just to make sure that we're doing all this planning in a transparent way.
Hey, Jim, if I can interject,
Yeah.
We're always looking for resident input. That budget workshop in November 8th, it is a long session for us. And, I believe, and I really should have checked it out with Jason beforehand. Those meetings, it's not unheard of for those meetings to go 3.5, 4, 5 hours. So they're kind of marathon sessions, but we do cover a lot, as Jim said, and we don't ever look at one project in a silo. We have to look at these things collectively. So, bringing all those components together is kind of critical in terms of assessing where those precious dollars need to go. So, but we love the input, and if you can be there, that would be absolutely wonderful. But it is a long one.
Yeah, and all this information comes to the city council in informal meetings as well. There'll be opportunities to see it all. It's just, if you do want to get more detail, please come on the 8th. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. And so, the bottom line or the net of all of this sound fiscal, all this sound fiscal management and budgeting and oversight of our finances is in that we enjoy the lowest property taxes in Lake County. This slide shows the property taxes for all taxing bodies in these listed communities as a percentage of the median equalized tax assessment value of the home in these communities, which is approximately 1/3 of the home's market value in general. So, it's really important. We want to be on the left side here, but we also have, beaches, infrastructure, libraries, potential new playing fields, stormwater, water plants, lots of infrastructure and demand. And so, but we take our capital allocation decisions very, very seriously and transparently. So we're looking forward to maintaining these low tax rates and the high quality of life and service to the community. And it's a balance that is tough to do, but we strive to do it in a transparent and in a thoughtful way. So where do your property taxes go? Well, here's the pie chart that shows you for a median value home in our community, what percent goes to which one of the taxing authorities. So the city operations for what we do and what we're responsible for in terms of volunteering overseas, around 22% of that tax payment from the average home value. And I think that's a pretty good bargain for all the things that we do. Obviously, the lion's share goes to the school districts, and we have amazing schools, and school boards oversee the budgeting and the spending on those two districts. And then the rest goes to Lake County and other entities. And those other entities are the College of Lake County, the County Forest Preserve or the Sanitary District, and the township that you live in. And it's really important. We place a large emphasis on financial transparency. And so if you're interested in learning more about our finances, please go to the city's website and our financial transparency portal, where you can view all sorts of financial data in an easy to read way. You could also reach out to us, and there's a budget in brief that summarizes a lot of information in an easy to read way, and the link is kind of listed below here. But if you have any questions on the finances, you can follow up with us by email or call us, and we'd be happy to help you get to the right sets of information. So now we want to talk a little bit about the key Ward 3 highlights.
Hey, Jim,
yeah.
If I could just interject right now.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions pending that we're going to get to, but I see one of our attendees, Pamela Morrison, has a raised hand. Pamela, did you want to ask us? No. She said, well, so Pamela, I'll tell you what, the best way to communicate is to go into the Q&A portion and type in your question, and that way we can field them. We've got a couple, and we're gonna break into those in a little bit, but best way to do it is through the Q&A portal.
Okay. Yeah, I see some of the questions.
She has been promoted on the screen, so she is. If she wants to unmute herself, she can provide her comment.
Yeah, Pamela, unmute yourself and we can listen. Okay, well, if she does, then we'll break into that. So sorry, Jim, I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I was getting on our roll there. So Maddie Dugan has two questions, one of which you'll cover on the Deer Path and 41 project. She's just interested on the timeline.
Yeah.
And then Maddie is also interested in what's happening on Deer Path on Green Bay, and that's Veterans Park. And so we can pull in staff to get a bit more detail, but we're going to redesign that in honor of our veterans. The construction is starting soon, and the fencing is the staging to get that project started. And then Robert said, thank you for your continued service. You two are most appreciated. That's really nice, Robert. Thank you for saying that. We're just doing our part, and we really appreciate everybody's volunteerism in our community, and that goes a long way. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And this is the first project that Era's going to talk through to get to Maddie's question on the pump station.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jim. So Jim and I wanted to hit some of the highlights that are going on that affect really almost all of us. And that first one, which is a question one of our viewers has, is that Deer Path Pump Station project. It's a very visible one. And I want to say on behalf of city staff and all the aldermen, we appreciate everybody's patience with it. It's been a project that's been in the making for a long, long time. It's something that has been problematic for literally decades. What's so wonderful about this is being entirely funded by the Illinois Department of Transportation. And as most of you well know, the genesis of that is that old pump, which used to be underneath a 41 viaduct, would break down periodically. And when it rained excessively, that thing would break down or malfunction. And I think IDOT just got sick and tired of coming out and repairing it. So they did a cost analysis and they thought it would make greater sense to fund an entire redesign and construction project for the city of Lake Forest. So that's not coming out of a city budget at all. So to date, that project's about 59%, 60% completed, which is really excellent. It really moved along at a great clip in the very beginning. And, what has been completed so far, I'm sure as you drive down Deer Path, you'll notice that there are 2 detention ponds that have been completed. The golf course landscaping is near completion. I think that city staff went a long way to be environmentally sensitive and being aware of the natural habitats and plantings that would go around those ponds. The pump station itself has been excavated and shored up, and all the utilities, which was a little bit of a surprise because quite honestly, sometimes they don't know where those utilities are running until they get into the project, and all those have been repositioned. So everything is really in great shape and ready to go. The storm sewers themselves are complete, and really what remains is a resurfacing of Deer Path, the road itself, and the landscape restoration. And then they're going to continue to build that actual pump station and then complete it with the landscape restoration around there. And we're expecting that project, Maddie, to be completed by December of 2022. There's been a lot of coordination that has occurred with Department of Transportation, and we want to specifically thank the public works staff, as well as City Manager Wisha, as well as the mayor. They were the ones who really got this project across the finish line in terms of getting it started. And our hats off is to our state senator who helped facilitate this too. There are an awful lot of hands that are being held out down in Springfield. And I think it speaks very highly and well of our staff that we were able to put ourselves in the position where we were able to get this project funded. So, more to come on this. On a final note, as far as that project goes, those steel pylons that are down in the side of the ground next to the pump station, I believe over the next week or two, they're going to be removing those. It won't be quite as noisy as it was when we put those darn things in. I think you could hear them all over town. I know I could, and I think Jim could. I wonder if the residents down in the second ward could. They won't remove those the same way. They actually kind of vibrate those things out, apparently. It is still a nuisance to the neighbors that are close by, and we do apologize, and we appreciate your infinite patience with this project, but we think it's going to make Lake Forest a safer and better place. And we're really thankful that this project has come to fruition and is on the backside of being completed.
That's great, Eric.
The next project wanted to dive into was the Burr Oak area storm sewer improvement project. If you go back a couple slides, and Jim, you don't need to, I think it was mislabeled as a $4.9 million project. The cost estimate on that actually is $5.2 million. This is a project that has been in the making again for decades. That area of town has has historically flooded and impacting a rather large number of residents. What has been done to date is a design and plan, and with the construction start date hopefully being late winter, early spring. The reason we're not quite certain on the exact date is because we're still waiting for a $2.7 million grant to come through. And that really, again, speaks to city staff's diligence and being, good stewards of our dollars and making sure that if there is assistance that we can gain, we're getting it. So we all benefit as residents throughout the entire city. What makes this particularly interesting is staff has come up with a rather innovative way of mitigating some of those stormwater issues. And if you look at that screen, there's a little diagram down there or schematic of what looks like buildings, and then down underneath, subterranean, there are these vaults down there. And what that is it's a storm trap detention vault. And the whole idea is when we do get those excessive floods and rains, rather than just shooting all that water out under the railroad tracks, underneath the front part of the high school, and then ultimately out into a ravine where it would probably in that volume do great damage, it allows the stormwater to accumulate in there and pump out over a period of time, I think 24 to 48 hours. So again, it's another example of how we're really taking into account the sensitivities of the environment. The money that's going to be coming to us is through the state DCEO, which is the Department of Commerce and Economic Activity. And the reason that there's a little bit of a lag with that is these intergovernmental contracts, these IGAs, and that money has to flow through the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission. And so we're waiting for those details to be finalized. And as soon as they are, we hope to get started on that. And you can see the scope of the project. It goes all the way up to Alden, Burr Oak, Franklin, and those storm trap detention vaults are going to be underneath actually Western Avenue. There is going to be a little bit of an interruption up there. And believe me, for those of you who are watching, I'm terribly sympathetic because I actually work in that area of town also. So, the contractors are very mindful of that. Is one of our commercial districts, but more importantly, that's where we have a high density of residents living. So, more to come on that. It's exciting. And again, thank you to city staff, our public works department, and the mayor and the city manager for really marshaling that through. So there's a debt of gratitude there. And I think we're all fortunate to have those leaders in position. Segueing into the next field, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction on this because I know it's been kind of a hot button issue for a lot of people, and I think it's really important for us to talk about this. There's been some discussion about the athletic field improvements behind the Deer Path grade school and the sports complex there. I want to try and put a little historical perspective on this. You'll see on our graph or on our slide up there that in June 2019, the Parks and Recreation Department, along with the Friends, implemented a master plan providing high quality sports field, which was one of the most highly prioritized amenities. The story actually goes back quite a few years prior to that. Having master plans and or capital improvement plans has been a legacy of the city that was started a while ago. So the alderman can get a sense as to the priorities and needs of the city. The first master plan that came through the Parks and Recreation Department was actually in 1995. And it was updated in 2008. And this is just the most recent iteration, which was worked on over about a 13 or 14 month period of time with resident input, stakeholder input, and community-wide surveys. And those did come in front of the Parks and Rec Board, and they approved it, and they sent it to City Council. And the reason this is such an important document, it is an incredibly comprehensive look at our parks and recreation system. And what I would encourage our callers to do, or our viewers, I should say, is to go onto the city website, to the Parks and Rec Department portion of that. And there's a tab up there that has the entire master plan. This was prior to my tenure on council. And when it was presented, Alderman Jack Reisenberg thought it was so important, he insisted on pulling it off the omnibus agenda and asked all of the aldermen to read it thoroughly before they voted on it. And pleased to announce that it was actually a unanimous vote. And that brings us to that June 19th timeline. And Jim, I'd love for you to jump in now and start carrying that forward if you could.
Yeah. I was on the council, and it was a good move on Jack's part. It really was an aspirational and very strategic document, and it was really worth talking through. And then all of our capital projects are vetted through our November workshop, and we think about the strategic use of capital in our community, and we really want to make the focus on process and understanding of what the steps are going to be to make these decisions. And so all the prior work that has been done will just kind of serve as input here for November, where we look at preliminary options and we agree on the method in which we're going to make decisions. So I come from a management consulting background. I like options and trade-offs and data, and we're really the ambassadors of a process for the community to provide input as to how this stacks with the relative priorities of other uses of capital in our community. And this happens to be an asset that's under the city purview. And so we're going to architect and discuss the design elements of that on a very preliminary basis, but then agree on the process moving forward in terms of getting public and engagement of the public to get feedback on not only the options, but the criteria in which we should use to discuss trade-offs. Because you could have 2 fields, you could have 4 fields, you could have natural grass, you can have turf. You could take a step back and say, well, gosh, I think we should evaluate it by cost and playability at 40% each. And then I think we should look at injuries and environmental impact and potential revenue from other communities that if we have excess capacity, we could sell to. I think this is a project actually that is ripe for a public-private partnership. And I'm a big fan of trying to maybe think of creative ways through this process, if it's natural grass or turf. I guess it's always an option strategically to just upgrade and keep what we have, but clearly the community has spoken around an assessment that we need to solve this problem. So first step is always, let's agree to the problem. Now let's understand the options, and let's get community feedback on the potential options and the information that we need to study and how we really need to adjudicate this as a community. And this is really, it could be a blueprint for us to go through other capital expenditures that are meaningful to our community. I mean, think about the slide we showed earlier. We average around 12 million all in of capital as a community on an annual basis. So, so the beach, the library, a field like this, big storm, these are important issues and things, and we can't do all of them at once. So we do have to prioritize and get community involvement. And we've done it before very well, and we're very, very committed to having open, transparent process. So the process is just going to be starting in November. In 1985, I think it was Mayor Farwell. He had the notion, and the city council to redo our beach. And I don't know how many people lived in the community back then, but I remember it. I was a beach guard after my freshman year in college, and I was guarding the beach to keep people off it when it started in construction in 1986. But we bonded the beach with, I think it was $8 million of 85 dollar value. I'm not sure what the equivalent would be today given inflation, but it was wow, that's a lot of money, and our beach is okay. some people thought, and other people like, well, gosh, let's think strategically here. What could this be? And look at the beach now, so it took some leadership and vision, and most importantly, evaluating options, getting experts in, and then walking through a blueprint of steps that we're really going to talk as a group about the project in the council workshop on November, just to say, how does this priority stack with our other capital needs in terms of the initial exploration work, and then let's define a roadmap here on how we're going to get community engagement, have another workshop to to really assess which option makes the most sense from a cost benefit trade-off perspective, and then let's actually make the decision and move forward here. So this is going to play out here over the next year. You have our promise, and that we're going to do this thoughtfully and transparently, and we're going to have community involvement. And I think we can come up with a solution that's best for our community, and we're so really excited about it. The other thing we wanted to touch on was some of the things that are happening on the environmental sustainability side. And so Alderman Rummel has done a great job of actually forming this new committee that, we before the committee, we had a collaborative of environmental leadership where the city was just one member with open lands and the college and the two school districts. But it was really hard to look through a sustainability lens for our capital projects. And we've done this now through, I guess, 1.5 cycles, where we as a subcommittee meet to think about priorities. We did an assessment on sustainability. We prioritize, public education and communication efforts on things like community solar and other programs that our citizens can hop into. But then we also, have rethought our recycling initiative with some marketing dollars that the Garden Club gave us. Thank you, to just educate people on what goes in the recycling bin, because as it gets removed from our landfill and it goes to the recycling processing center, if it's not supposed to be there, it costs money more and it goes right back to the landfill. We've also spent some time and interns cataloging all the ravine systems in the ecosystem. I think I failed to mention that open lands is part of the collaborative as well. So they're obviously very important to that. And then we're starting to explore, of the 35 buildings of the city, where we could put some actual rooftop solar. All that being said, is we have a commitment to sustainability. We're going to probably look to baseline our emissions in terms of greenhouse gases, and really, be thoughtful about how we can make an impact here in our community. The collaborative was the vehicle for the two school districts and Lake Forest College and open lands in the city to talk about educational issues, and we did forums. But around 18 months ago, the sustainability committee, a formal subcommittee of the council, was formed under Alderman Rummel's leadership, and Alderman Weber and myself are on that. And so we've added components to existing capital projects. There's an electric charger done on Sheridan Road out by the train station and Old Elm. There's been a couple other things where we have discussed elements that will cost incremental, but also provide benefits, and provide that to the Public Works Committee for consideration. I'm the chair of the Public Works Committee, so it's a nice kind of synergy. And Mike Thomas, Dan Martin and his staff, they all do a great job factoring that in. So it's going to be important for us to continue this dialogue, and it certainly will be a factor considered as we go through our capital projects, including any turf or natural grass upgrades to Deer Path. The beach is another one. Gosh, everyone remembers the North Access collapse. I mentioned that as a public-private contribution, where we rebuilt that and really were able to do, I guess, more of the Cadillac solution. I don't know if the Cadillac solution, that maybe I'm dating myself, it's probably like maybe it's the Tesla solution now, or, it's the Porsche solution. I don't know. But we were going to be mindful of our taxpayers. And I think we're angling, maybe we would lose some tableland and do something that would save, $800,000 to $900,000. But the community rallied, all the friends of Forest Park and that foundation, and Prue Beidler really drove that effort. The Chicago Bears were involved. And obviously Nancy Hughes was involved, and thank you, Nancy. I know you're up there, and there's just been so many angels in our community that have helped. That being said, there are opportunities here to assess the risk of further collapses. They could hurt structures, or they could serve as safety issues. So we're really going to start looking at some conceptual design and monitoring of these different sections, and continuing to look through these studies here in November to assess what would be maybe prudent options to consider, because we really do need to be stewards of our financial reserves, but also all the assets that we're blessed to have in our community. And so the final slide, where I guess is for the 7 or so folks that were new to Lake Forest, welcome. Please check out the city website. Please download the new mobile app. It's called LF Now. It's really slick and nice. You can sign up for an e-newsletter. You can get the dialogue. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. The Chamber of Commerce does a great job of calendar items for the community, and there's lots of ways to get plugged in. And I mentioned the caucus as well, and I really want to put a plug for the caucus and the third ward, or any ward, if you're looking to volunteer in a more formal way. And so with that, we'll shift into Q&A, and we got
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
So, we do have a question that's been waiting, and Maddie's been waiting very patiently. Quick. On a side note, you mentioned the real dollar, or modern day value of that $8 million commitment. And based on some assumptions, that $8 million investment that the city did in 1985 is roughly, it's over $20 million. So, we look at these things, and we have to look not only through the lens of today and tomorrow, but really what impact is it going to have on the community, 40 years from now. And, I'm very thankful, I, like Jim, lived in the community where I knew what the older beach was like. And, I can safely say that I think that the mayor and the aldermen and subsequent aldermen have done a great job in terms of assessing and prioritizing those issues, and being very mindful of the value of those dollars spent. So really quick, I do want to jump now to Maddie Dugan had a question, and I think we're going to turn it over to Chuck Myers. Maddie asked what is going on at the park on the corner of Deer Path and Green Bay Road, which is what used to be formerly the Open Lands Park, and now it is Veterans Park. And Chuck, are you available to take that question in a little greater depth?
Yes, absolutely. So good evening. Yeah, as you mentioned, the park was renamed to Veterans Park. And a couple of years ago, we started looking at the park with the Civic Beautification Committee and the park board, people that we work with closely. And we decided to do a plan through Craig Bergman design. So we developed a plan, and most of what we're doing is renovations to the park. So there's no drastic changes. There's no features being added like playgrounds or anything like that. It is still considered a passive park. So a lot of what's happening is landscape features. A lot of the plant material was in pretty poor condition. Most of that's already been removed. So what you see when you drive by out there will remain, and then we're going to be adding a lot more to some of the beds. So in addition to that, we are working with the American Legion Post 264. They are interested in a veterans feature, a monument. And of course, we're interested in that as well. So they are doing a fundraising campaign on that right now. They're currently in design phase. So more to come on that, but we will be adding a flag to the middle of the park also. So it will be right in the center of the park, and there will be an area around it for people to gather for events or for reflection. It is meant to pay honor to our veterans, and I think it's going to be a really nice feature. The other thing that you'll notice as you drive by is right next to the intersection, it has somewhat of a closed off feel right now with the wall. That's going to be opened up. It will still be grass on the sides, but we will be putting a new sign in there, and there'll be a planting bed right near the intersection. So I think it's going to have a more open feel to it. You'll be able to see it when you drive through. And a lot of discussion about that being a very important addition to our park system, because it is the park that you're going to see right as you enter the central business district. So we're excited about it. It is getting underway very soon. You've seen the fencing out there. We expect some construction to start very soon. And as far as the timeline for this, we would like to have all the renovations done by Memorial Day next year. That does not include the veterans feature, because that's still in design. We're hoping to have that later in the year next year, hopefully maybe by Veterans Day, so we can have a grand opening for the park.
That's great. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. And again, I want to emphasize that we're grateful to have the American Legion Post as a partner in this. Again, honoring our veterans, I think, is an important aspect that none of us take lightly, but it's heartwarming that we have a community that does respect our veterans and their service, and we're excited to work with them on that. So, and thank you to the city staff too. Of interest, of note, that project had gone through the Parks and Recreation Board, and they had to do several iterations of that, and they had to be mindful of a budget, and they had to look at it a couple times, and they finally came back with a design that was very thoughtful, was within the budget parameters, and I think we're all going to be very pleased with that. So, I think we're at that point in the meeting now where Jim and I'd really like to kind of freehand it now and see what questions you all may have. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the third ward. Listen, we're elected by the third ward, but we represent the city of Lake Forest. And, if there's something we're unsure of, we're definitely going to pull in staff to answer that question. But, does anybody have any questions that are at the forefront of their mind right now? And again,
we have Suzanne Henderson with her hand raised.
Oh, yeah.
Staff could let her in. All right, so Suzanne, you're in the session. You're able to speak. If you just unmute yourself, please ask your question. Hi, Suzanne, you're still muted. Are you able to? So the mute button is on the lower left side of the Zoom box that you're logged into, if you could see that. If you have a teenager around, maybe they can help.
There we go. No, I couldn't get it unmuted.
No.
There are a number of us seniors who don't necessarily watch our computers every day. And I think probably 10 or more of us ended up at the hotel tonight when we were told that the meeting wasn't there. I'm just very frustrated about that. I feel badly. And some of us can't even get on Zoom. My computer won't do it. So anyway, I was lucky to get on iPhone because one of the gals at the hotel taught me. But I do think that you need to figure out a different way of notifying people. Some people don't belong to preservation and so forth. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Suzanne. First of all, I apologize for driving all the way out there and being told that it wasn't there. So really, really apologize. We did try to get the word out, and it's hard to get it to everybody. And so we really apologize. There's really no excuse to not get the word out to everyone. We did our best through, kind of through all the communication channels that we had available to us. And I think, we're really going to try to do it next year. I think this session is being recorded, Suzanne, and I hope if there is access, if you have access to a computer somewhere, I know I'd be happy to come over there, or Era and I, or city staff, help you with some people to watch it on a screen. And then if there's questions, could have follow-up phone calls, or if there's anything on your mind now, we're happy to answer other questions. But so I'm really sorry about that. We did the best we could in getting the information out to all the residents through the channels. And thank you for being understanding. And I'm really sorry that you had to traipse all the way out there, and apologize again. All right, so Maggie, Maggie Dugan has a question about some more info on how to contribute would be great down the road. And Maddie, if you don't mind maybe coming on to maybe clarify that a little bit. Trying to make sure I understand contribute. Is that to be a volunteer in the community, or is it to provide input into the city in terms of meetings? I just want to make sure I understand that. And so go ahead, please.
Thank you. No, my question was how to contribute to the park, the new park, at the remodel of the park, how to contribute to the American Legion or to Parks and Rec or whomever is collecting contributions.
Okay, well, we will follow up with you on that via email. If there's a, the Friends of Parks and Rec is the standing vehicle that could probably earmark some money to that. I'm not sure if the VFW is the other vehicle that, could make some sense depending on how the memorial is being financed. But that's so kind of you. And we will get that information to you and follow up. And I just, on a personal note, thank you so much for all you do for the community. I've been in the hospital many times to see your smiling face when I'm visiting people under tough circumstances, and you're always there. And obviously want to thank you and your family for enabling the hospital to be what it is to begin with, in terms of the Dick family and the legacy to our community for building this world-class hospital 2.0. It's just unbelievable, and it's something you'd never mentioned. So thank you. Okay, Mike Adams. He says, thank you for mentioning the Lake Forest Caucus. All who are listening, go to lakeforestcaucus.com to learn more about ways to serve in our wonderful city of Lake Forest. Yes, and so Mike Adams was the president of the caucus, and was on it for at least 3 years, a good part of which was on the executive committee. So thank you, Mike, for just being a caretaker of that and facilitating the volunteerism in our community. So thank you.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Just Maddie, I know you're listening. Director Swarthout, Sally Swarthout, is going to send you an email and reach out to you personally and give you some more information. But it might be helpful if staff can address that and see what can be done to make it a little more understandable for residents who do want to help contribute to that worthy project. Jim,
Yeah, before we go on, sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make sure we did this because there's a lot of veterans in our police force and also in our fire department. And I saw Chief Waldorf at the foundation dinner, and I said, you just don't get calls out enough. And thanks for all you do for the community, especially during COVID and all these times. And both Chief Siebert and Chief Waldorf are, they're pretty humble, and they don't, call a lot of attention to themselves through community spotlights. And I kind of joke that heroes don't want attention, but there's so many veterans that we honor in that park that are also, members of police and fire. And I just want to give them a special shout out tonight of thanks for all they do for our community to keep us safe. And thanks for the fun story as well, Chief. All right, sorry, go ahead, Era, I interrupted you.
No, I was going to say, Wayne typed in a question, and I think Director Cerniak would be most suitable to answer this question. That the city completed a Route 60 corridor study, and at the western entrance of the city at Saunders Road and Route 60 is an 8-acre commercial lot. And maybe this is really directed more towards me and you, Jim. What do you believe is the best use of this commercially zoned lot? What type of a development and the impact to Amberley Woods? And, before I turn that over to Director Cerniak, I would say that, probably first and foremost that for both me and Jim is we want to make sure that the impact on the adjacent residential neighborhood is acceptable. I mean, that's going to be first and foremost. We're your representatives. Yes, we'd love to see that parcel develop, but it's got to be in a way that's sensitive and is acceptable to the neighborhood that's just adjacent to it. Kathy, are you on? Do you think you could pick up that question for us?
Sure. Thanks, Alderman Goshgarian. The Route 60 corridor plan looked at that parcel at the corner. It's about an 8-acre parcel on the corner, on the southeast corner of Route 60 and Saunders Road, and really saw that parcel as something that could be a real amenity to the Conway Park Office Park. The alderman did mention that the Forrester Hotel recently opened. Amazingly, that hotel opened in March during the middle of a pandemic, and the hotel is doing very well. So there may be an opportunity for a second hotel in that area. Certainly there's been discussions about restaurants. There's been discussions about a mixed use that would include some residential. But importantly, Alderman Goshgarian, to follow up on what you said, there's been a lot of discussion and really from the staff's perspective, we believe really a commitment to look at two key elements, no matter what goes onto that site. A berm to the east, which would really provide a buffer between the commercial development and the condominiums to the east. And I will just note that the second condominium building in Amberley Woods ground is just being broken for that. The second key element that's been discussed, and again, really, I believe, committed to as a key component of any redevelopment of that site, is a cul-de-sac at the west end of Amberley Court, so that we're really separating the residential use from this commercial parcel, which will perhaps give more flexibility to this commercial parcel, and at the same time protect the character of that developing residential neighborhood. So we don't know for sure what the development will be, but as employees come back to Conway Park, I think there's a real interest on the part of the businesses in the park in seeing restaurants, hotels, perhaps some service businesses, and perhaps even some residential on that site, but all yet to be determined.
Great, thank you very much. And Wayne, hopefully that's giving you some senses to the direction. We can always follow up with you offline and have further discussions if you'd like. There's another question from Alan and Sandy Janis, and encapsulated, are the beach rules only for summertime? And I think he's seen dogs and bikes lately. So possibly, Sally Swarthout, Director Swarthout, could you answer that? And maybe Chief Waldorf could piggyback on that. Sally, do you have any thoughts on that, please?
Absolutely. Thank you for welcoming me in. Good evening. Beach rules are actually annually, they're year round. Unfortunately, at this time of the year, we don't have staff patrolling and enforcing the rules throughout the entire day and into the evening. So the police department greatly helps us to enforce those rules when the staff is not present. And there are still no bikes, no dogs, and we do still look for resident-only parking in the lots. Carl, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I would just echo Sally. During the off season, it's our officers and CSOs who get down there to patrol. But obviously, there are far fewer eyes when Sally's employees aren't there during the fall, winter, and spring. So we encourage anyone who sees any violations to give us a call, and we can send someone down there 24 hours a day.
Great, thank you. Jim, you know, I'm waiting to see if we have more questions, and none are coming up. Be happy to entertain any other questions you might have. And again, as Jim stated in the beginning of this warden meeting, you know, this is more about you. It's not about us, and we want to make ourselves available to you. And I would emphasize also, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either Jim or me. And you know, and of course, city staff is always available too. But between the two of us, usually somebody jumps in and is able to.
I think we can wait a little. You know, I think last time we did this last year, yeah, there was a little lull around this time, and then there were a couple new ones. But you know, any question is open. It really is your time to ask us questions, and our contact information is here on the screen, and you can certainly call us or email us too. Pamela Morrison has another question. Says this question is for Sally. So Sally, if you could come in, she's saying, is it possible to install video cams at the beach to promote rule following? And that's kind of an interesting. So and that may be for Chief Waldorf too. I mean, I don't know if there's you're able to ticket, maybe for cars you can, but Sally, has that been brought up at all, or is there some innovative ways to do that?
It has not been raised. It's a little bit of a sensitive issue with cameras at the beach. For parking, certainly we can have some kind of a system, but cameras for rule following, I think would be somewhat difficult. Again, I'm going to call on Chief Waldorf to come on in and give his thoughts.
I think, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Chief.
I think the hard part with the cameras would be having someone to monitor them. The technology itself is fairly affordable, but it's really, you know, how do you dedicate someone just to that system, you know, 24 hours a day, or say 12 hours a day. I think that's the hard part, really. And quite frankly, our residents are pretty good about calling us when they notice something that's out of line. And so we do get quite a few calls down there. We do go down and write tickets and warnings. And so I think really we just need to empower as many people as possible to call when they see something that rubs them the wrong way, because there's residents down there almost 24 hours a day. It's not unusual when you're a midnight officer, for example, to go down and see someone walking their dog at 4 a.m. So we just need everybody to call us whenever they see something out of line.
Yeah, I'm a big user of the beach. I've been doing a lot of swimming, biking, and running this summer. I have to admit, Chief, I have ridden my bike down, and I apologize. You know, I think people are getting exercise and doing what they can do down there to get out and stay healthy and to enjoy the open space. And it is a common sense approach. You know, I don't do it regularly, but I have done it. People walk down to the North Access Road and jog, which is a safety concern. The same with bikes, so I totally get it. And then, you know, I do notice that there are more dogs down there, and you know, there's lots of reasons for that's not a good idea. And so I think, you know, some of it is common sense on what you should report and call. Police, I mean, everyone thinks, you know, we're safe and there's no real challenges. I mean, the police are, you know, they have a full schedule. Their shifts are busy. So it is a little bit of a balancing act, but I'm very sensitive to it. And I really, really appreciate you bringing it up. And I promise to do better on my bike, and I'll watch out for people down there. And so, but I appreciate the issue and the comments made. All right. So we have another one from Alan and Sandy. Janice, what is the status of the proposed development at Wakeegan and Everett? Is Kathy, are you still on? Can you maybe just give a quick update on that
Sure.
project?
Sure. Thank you, Alderman Preschlack. A redevelopment was approved for the southeast corner of Everett and Wakeegan Road. That development includes a medical office building at the south end of that site and a coffee shop with a drive-through at the corner, essentially. Some shared parking for both of those uses, as well as the existing office building to the east. I recently checked in with the developer's representative, and they are still trying to secure leases for the medical office building before they move forward. Last I heard, it's likely that the coffee shop would get under construction before the medical office building. I don't have a specific timeline, but as far as I know, the developer is still planning to proceed with that site. The old Pasquesi building has been taken down.
Right.
All right, thanks, Kathy. There's another question from Wayne. It says, any new business opening or coming to city, central business district or Market Square? So we have touched on the restaurant opening next year in April for La Coloniale. It's hard to say that word without an accent. But is there anything else happening either at Westwood or along Western or in Market Square, Kathy, that is new and we haven't covered?
Yes, in the central business district, Lucky Duck, a small plate and bao buns restaurant, is taking the place of Peanut Gallery, which formerly was in Westwood Square at the north end of Western Avenue near Woodland Road. However, the Peanut Gallery is coming back at a different location, still working on options for the location, but we expect it to be in the central business district. We do have plans in for the Lake Forest Brewery, which will be locating also in Westwood Square in the space that fronts on Western Avenue, the space at the south end that was formerly occupied by the cleaners and the foot spa. So that's something to look forward to. I know that in Market Square, work is currently underway, some interior alterations. There is a custom window covering retail store that will be opening, the Shade Shop, and that is right in Market Square. We also have been notified by Market Square management that there's likely to be 2 or more retail pop-ups that come into Market Square over the holidays. Those are the immediate new businesses that come to mind, but I will say that city staff is receiving a surprising number of calls from restaurants, and I do think that interest is being prompted by Le Coloniale coming into the community. And as you noted, Alderman Preschlack, Le Coloniale, the former Southgate building has pretty much been gutted. What is happening inside is pretty amazing, and we'll be setting that building up to survive for another 100 years. But as you mentioned, they are scheduled to open in April of 22.
Okay, and before we get to the raised hand, we had a question on the Caputo and Visconti space too, Kathy, just to keep you on. And then is there anything happening there?
There were some ongoing landlord-tenant issues there. So obviously, those of you that have been by know that the Visconti, formerly Caputo's space, is now empty. And given some of the difficulties, that's probably a good thing. So I know that the landlords, the owners of that building, are entertaining a number of possible interested parties.
Okay, Era, sorry, on the raised hand.
Yeah, there is a raised hand. Sandy, if you unmute yourself.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure exactly how to work this, but I'm Andy Noble, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Friends of Lake Forest Library. And what I really just wanted to do is to say a huge thank you to Ara and Jim and to Kathy Cerniak and to Sally also for the amazing support that they've given to the Friends. You guys have been terrific in offering us some alternatives when we had difficulties collecting books. And it is, I can't say enough thank you. Our success of the sale was amazing. We didn't really expect to duplicate 2019, but we did. And we had a huge, over 3,500 people came to the sale. It's the second largest one in the whole Midwest. St. Louis is only larger than we are. And it seems to be much appreciated by the city. But again, just a huge thank you for the city support that we have had. And you guys seem to be always on board in giving us alternatives when we've had some difficulties. And that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you so much to you all for all you've done to make it happen, because we could never have done it this year without your support.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Sandy. And thank you for your 40 years or so of working for the Friends. I think you started when you were 12 or 13. And it's the volunteerism in our community is so special. And obviously the library is special, and your contribution to the town is special. So I really just can't thank you enough for all that you and your team have done and continue to do for our community. So thank you so much. All right. Do you have any other hands raised, Sarah?
No, I don't see any currently.
Okay, so Laura asked a question about dog walking, and Laura, I'm gonna give you my email, and you can just email me a time to chat, and we can talk more about that. Yeah, and we can pull in Sally as well to just have more conversations on the rationale for no dogs on the beach. But if you just send me an email, we will follow up with you on that, and just make sure you have a chance to talk to Sally on that specific stuff. And appreciate you asking. Anyone else? We're here, and we just appreciate it again, all the people that have served or are serving our community on the call. And again, we just do this once a year, but please feel free to reach out to us via email or phone call if there's anything on your mind. And both Era and I want to be a service to help you either navigate the city or answer questions or get plugged into the community. And so thank you all for participating. And if there's no further questions, we'll call it 7 minutes early and call it a ward meeting here. Do I have a motion for that, or is there anyone else? Last questions or anything?
Jim, just lastly, I want to thank the residents who tuned in. You're the most important part of this process. And, again, as Jim said, we always want to make ourselves available. And if you have any questions or comments or thoughts, we'd love to hear them. It seems like once a year isn't enough, but that's the way it's sort of structured. So feel free to reach out to us anytime, because we're here to serve you. So.
Yeah, and I just see on the participant list so many people that serve the community. So Wells Wheeler served with you on the HPC. Thank you for your service. Same with Susan Athenson, who's been on 3 boards. Amazing. Sandy, we already thanked, and thank you. Mike Adams, Melanie Rummel participating in our ward meeting, checking up on us. Hi, Melanie. Thank you for your service. Who else?
Bob Warborough, caucus member.
Great, Bob, thank you for your service. Everybody, thank you for your volunteers. I mean, we do have one hand. See, this is good. 5 minutes, and we have a Patricia Rios. Is that? I'm not sure if I got the last name correct, but if we could let Patricia in for the last question. Hopefully, it's not too difficult. You can unmute yourself, Patricia. There's a mute button to the lower left of the screen, hopefully. Sometimes if you increase the size of the window, but it's usually on the lower left, it says mute. Sorry, we'll give you a couple minutes here. There's a way to find that unmute button. All right. Well, Patricia, please just email us with.
No, I don't really. I'd like to say something so the community can hear it.
Oh, great. You got it. Thank you. We can hear you. Thank you so much.
Good. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Awesome. Thank you. You're on.
So I'm Patricia Reese, and I've lived here almost 45 years. And just recently moved to Ward 3 from Ward 2. And we built a house that was historic, even though we weren't in we were in the Cherokee district, and it was not a historic district, but we built a historic house, and it was not difficult for the architect to follow the rules of the historic rules. However, I was at the meeting, the City Hall, when you were discussing the contemporary condo building that was going to be on Westminster Road, facing on Westminster Road. I listened to it very carefully, and I noticed that it was really dignified by Ms. Rummel's closing remarks about of the 17 or whatever rules for being part of the historic preservation district in which that condo was going to be part of. The alderman voted, you and Charlie, and I think your partner, voted for the undermining of the Historic Preservation Commission, which is a city organization. And when you have so many pieces of the Preservation Commission that are not met, how could you even think of overruling your own city commission? Because overruling your own city commission on historic preservation undermines everything that historic I mean, you advertise we're a historic city. Oh, we're not going to be a historic city if you keep undermining the Historic Preservation Commission. Now, could you please explain to me and my many friends your vote against the Historic Preservation Commission and for completely disregarding the rules that they have for being in the Historic Preservation Commission, in the Historic Preservation District. I do not understand it. I've tried to understand it. My friends have tried to understand it. We don't understand your vote. Being a longtime resident yourself, probably much longer than I have, raising money through property taxes is not the way to go about it if you're going to want to keep the historic district. You're going to have another ordinary community. Ordinary. And you have this huge budget to publicize moving to Lake Forest when you're destroying it. Please tell us, all of us, what your vote was all about when you voted to vote for the modern condominium in the historic district, when it was completely rejected twice, I think, by the Preservation Commission of the city. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Patricia. I served on the HPC for 6 years, and I was the chair of 1 year, so I take historic preservation very seriously. We really cannot comment on this petition pending litigation, but I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your point of view. All right, do we have any other questions? Anybody else with a Q&A question or a hand up? All right, seeing none, we are at 8:32, and again, just thank you so much for everybody's time and involvement in our community and in their service. It's a special place and it's a beautiful place, but it's special because of the people. So thank you, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you around town. And please reach out to us if you have anything else you'd like to chat with us. And again, thank you and good night.